Hey everybody, welcome back to my small engine repair channel. I've got this Air and Snowblower here in the shop today. Customer says the engine is seized. This machine was serviced last fall. New oil, etc. greased. That would not contribute to the engine being seized. What I want to do today here is diagnose this first by removing the belt cover and checking to make sure that nothing is jammed in there. And the last option here would be to rip the engine apart to see what's going on. So I'm going to start with the basic things here that you should look at when you get a machine in your shop that is seized. So the very first thing to do is remove the belt cover. There's two 3/8 head bolts here to get this off. Okay, so I want to show you here that it is seized. It just won't turn, and I'll check the oil. There's lots of oil, and like I said, the oil had been replaced in November. And now that I have the cover off, what I will do is grab a 9/16 wrench and try to turn that crankshaft directly from here, and I'll know quick enough what's going on. Well, I've got it to turn here. It didn't feel good. It did feel like it was binding. So something's binding. I'm not sure if the motor's pooched or not. I don't see the block cracked over here. What I'm thinking it could be is it could be that the coil is jamming up on the flywheel, or the stator under the flywheel might be jamming it up. What I will do now is remove the starter, have a quick look behind it to make sure the block's not cracked. So to remove the starter, you'll have to loosen these two bolts over here. I'll loosen them with the 3/8 wrench and then use my Torx T30. Okay, that starter does not look good, as you can see. So all the teeth have been stripped. And I'm thinking that's probably what's jamming up this engine. They probably stuck to all the magnets on the flywheel, inside the flywheel and outside possibly. Hopefully not on the inside, because that's where the stator is. And there's a small bracket here that is broken from the starter. And these machines vibrate like crazy, as you all know. They're not bad engines, but they vibrate just so much that it probably made the little tab here break off. And then it may have misaligned the starter. It got stuck on the flywheel, and that's the problem probably. Let's try to turn it by hand again. No, it's still jamming. So it looks good. It doesn't look like the engine is pooched. I'll take the starter completely off here. And you'll need a 1/4 inch nut driver to do this, or a Phillips screwdriver. And at this point here, I'll have to remove the shroud here and the carburetor cover. These are 1/2 inch, by the way. Now to get the carburetor cover off, there's some bolts and screws to remove. I'm using a 5/16 nut driver for this one over here. And what I'll do here first is pop the choke knob off with a flat screwdriver. And there's another 5/16 bolt here. 2 Phillips screws over here. And to get this off, just slide it past the choke shaft. And I'll just disconnect the key wire here. And I'll disconnect the throttle assembly. There's 2 small bolts with a 1/4 inch head. Now I'm just going to leave this here so it doesn't go out of place, because all the linkages are hooked up to this. Well, one of them is, and the other one is on the carburetor. And on this side, there is a bolt that needs to be removed right over here. It's a 1/2 inch head as well. And on the other side here too. Okay, so I put the machine upright like this, so just so that it's easier to get this cover off. Okay, so it's exactly what I thought would have happened when I saw the starter. There are all the starter teeth stuck on the flywheel magnet. That's exactly what's seizing up this engine. So I'll just take those out. And it's a good thing there isn't more damage caused by this, because sometimes it can actually rip the coil right off the engine and break the mounting studs right there. So this will be an easy fix. I'll just put on another starter and this machine will be ready to go. Now, before I put the covers on here, if you think that you have pieces of the gear inside the flywheel, because there are magnets inside the flywheel, then you might have to remove the flywheel to get those pieces out, because if you don't, those small pieces may get stuck on the stator and the magnets inside the flywheel and it will bust all your magnets. And the teeth are out now. The machine's spinning over the way it should. So this machine will live another day. I will just put this back on. So I'll put the top bolts on right here. And you'll need your 1/2-inch socket for this. And another bolt like that goes right here. And the same on the other side, there's another bolt like this. And I'll put the throttle assembly back on. And I put some blue Loctite on the small screws that go in here. So when you put this back on, you want this part to be sticking up. And this is where you want the linkage in the second from the top hole. And there's another screw right here. And I've also decided not to put this starter back on. I was going to weld the tab here and put it back on and change the gear. But I've realized here it's stuck, protruding out. So even if I replace the gear, there's a possibility that this could happen again. So I'm not going to take a chance. I'll have to contact the owner and see if he wants a new starter put on this machine. All right, so I'm going to take the machine outside, try to start it, and hopefully that was the only issue with that machine. All right, let's get some choke on, throttle, primer. So that's awesome here. I'm going to bring it right back in the shop here. Customer wants a brand new starter on this machine, electric starter. So I'll put that on, put the covers back on, and this machine is ready to go. All right, so I'll put this cover on first. Very first thing I will do is hook up the key wire. So it goes right here. Then what you do is get the choke shaft through the hole here. And now there's two screws here. I put blue Loctite on them. These engines vibrate like crazy, so it's good to always put Loctite on the screws or bolts of your Tecumseh engine. They're kind of like an older Harley Davidson, by the way. They do vibrate a lot. Now there's one screw right here. You'll need your 5/16 nut driver for this. or a socket and a ratchet. And the choke knob here just goes back on the shaft. Just push it in. Now there's a screw that goes right there. I like to have the bracket here that holds the dipstick tube behind the shroud cover. And I've also put the 2 bolts that hold the belt cover back on, one here and one down there. And here's the new starter I'm putting on. It's an original Tecumseh starter, part number 33329H. Now when you buy this kit here, you get the cord, and you do get the hardware. You get new hardware to install it on the machine. And here's a closer look at all the hardware. Now the shoulder bolts, you do not need to go replace those. The older ones will be just fine. And the cord, and here's the starter. I find the original ones are better than the knockoff ones you buy on Amazon. Now when you install this starter, what you want to do is put the 2 tabs here from the starter right here. So you want to put the tabs right against the engine block. There's one here and there is one over here. Make sure your wire is not in the way here. So these are already tight. You don't need to retighten them up. Just like this. And then what you want to do is get the bottom bolts on and hold the starter in place before you get the bottom bolts on. Now it's really important that you put blue Loctite on those 2 bottom screws. You can start them with your Torx T30 and then tighten them up with a 3/8 wrench. With the wrench, you can actually turn the screws almost half a turn sometimes. And check these every year. Every fall, check how tight your bolts are because they can get loose over the winter time and cause problems with your electric starter. Not only can you cause problems to your engine and the starter if these bolts get loose, but you can also damage the threads that these screws go into if they get loose. And then there's 2 screws that go on the switch here, and you'll need a 1/4 inch nut driver or a 1/4 inch socket to put them in. You can also use a Phillips screwdriver because it does have the star head. Now I'm just going to quickly test it and shut the machine off right away. All good. I always test them out even if they are brand new. You just never know what can happen. So this repair went way better than I expected. Usually when I get a call from a customer that tells me the engine on my snowblower is seized and it's seized while I was using it and I've got a Tecumseh, first thing that comes to my mind is a blown connecting rod, and usually I'm not wrong about that. This was the exception today. It went well. The machine has a lot of life left in it. So I'm kind of glad the customer went for it because with the starter and some other parts, it does add up, you know, pickup and delivery fees and all that stuff. But the Aaron's machine is a good machine. They're well built. So another machine lives another day, guys. If you enjoyed my video, please like it and share it with your friends. And also make sure you are subscribed to my channel. Thanks again for watching. Have a good day.